I know most of you are quite confused about what countries you should apply, what universities you should apply. But today I'm going to discuss the things that you should, the con side of things of sort of each country when it comes to the master's program. A lot of this might not be discussed by grad students themselves or by admission agencies. So do make sure to keep a pen and a notepad and note this down. Hi everyone, welcome to another interesting session of Engineering Insiders. We are almost drawing up to a close for the year 2020. It's been a very eventful year. And October is definitely a very stressful time because you're just 2 months away from applying for masters across most North American schools. So today we thought of discussing something quite important. I know most of you are quite confused about what countries you should apply, what universities you should apply. But today I'm going to discuss the things that you should the con side of things of sort of each country when it comes to the master's program. A lot of this might not be discussed by grad students themselves or by admission agencies. So do make sure to keep a pen and a notepad and note this down. So the first country that I've picked up for you is Germany. I know it's everybody's favorite because it doesn't really have much of tuition fees. Now, when you apply to German universities, you need to understand there are two sort of systems. The Hochschule and the Fachschule, which basically means that one of them is more oriented to get you a job. So you can't really transfer to a PhD. And you might think, well, I don't want to do a PhD, but these universities sort of are considered to be less prestigious. The other one is more research intensive. So do make sure you pick the right choice. The second thing I want to tell you is that you definitely should try for a public university. I know the common complaint is that there are not many English programs at public universities. The thing is that most private universities already have some sort of tie-up with consultants, which means they will charge a certain kind of commission and they may not have academically very rigorous sort of curriculum, or the students may not be extremely very, up to the same level that you are aspiring them to be. The next thing I want to discuss is curriculum design. Germany actually has master's programs which can take up a lot more time. A 120 credit master's, which international students do, can take up around 3 to 3.5 years. It's not uncommon for students, yes, even those who are academically very bright, to take up a couple of extra semesters so they can pass through the really, absolutely very difficult exams. And their courses are extremely very rigorous. So a STEM course would probably have a lot more applied math than you would have done in your entire undergrad of engineering. As a matter of fact, the MIT school, which is so technically advanced, is very much modeled on the German system. Yes, the German universities are far much more rigorous than even the American and Canadian ones. The next thing that I want to say is if there are 3 skills that you need to have if you're studying in Germany, you need to be absolutely very academically independent, punctual, and extremely serious. You definitely need to be a nerd. German professors are bound to be pure, academics of their subjects, which means they're either lecturers or scientists. Also, there's not any sort of spoon feeding that happens. North American schools, despite being competitive, have professors who will give out you a course handout. So this is what you will be, learning. This is the book that you should refer to for this particular class. Everything is well defined. You get the lecture slides emailed to you. Everything is accessible. In Germany, nothing of that happens. Whether you understand, you don't understand, you come to class, you don't come to class, it's really up to you and it's your headache. Third, and I can't believe how people don't talk about this, the big grade. Yes, a lot of applicants don't realize that in Germany, your entire semester's grade depends on that one final exam at the end. Fourth, very important, social life. Universities were built to be sacrosanct entities purely for education. So you don't have sports clubs, cultural fests, or even tech fests for that matter. Don't expect a vibrant campus life. You're going there to learn. Socialization should happen outside university. One thing important, there is no established alumni relations team, sort of like you will have with a lot of British and North American schools. Research. Very critical component of German masters. It's almost mandatory in every university, no matter what. Yes, If you're trying for North America, you have the option to do a master's with thesis and internships around the summer, or you can do an internship even at the end of a semester. In some programs, most of them require you to have courses. So it's very well separated and segregated, but in Germany, you have to be extremely very good with research. Please don't take the easy way out. I know a lot of students apply to Germany because they don't want to write the GMAT and GRE and think it's not required. Well, that's what it says on the website, right? Not really. Almost everyone applying, especially international students for German schools, have already given the GRE GMAT. Indian applicants may also be required to submit a GATE score. They do value it a lot. Study plans. Okay. Germany gets you a PR once you've graduated, 2 years work ex, and you have a stable sort of future. There's no sort of point-based system. So that's an advantage. How are you viewed as an applicant? Very important. When you're applying to North American schools, everybody will have a position of responsibility, sub-club that they were part of. People would have contributed social hours, they would have done internships, worked in extremely very coveted companies, have great CGPA, good GRE scores, sort of like that. In Germany, everything eventually boils down to your academics. So your GPA is what matters hell a lot. If you've done research work, then that kind of sort of overcompensates. So it has to be academic. Work experience does not really matter unless it's extremely very relevant to the master's specialization that you're doing. The second country on my list is Australia. Now this seems to be extremely very appealing, but there's not, again, a lot of information, I would say honest information out there. 7 of Australia's universities do form the top 100 QS world rankings. Australia does stand out when it comes with sciences, mathematics, and research. A lot of other professions. I'll just begin with a very simple thing. How does the curriculum design differ? Very similar to the North American school, but you need to make sure that your MS in engineering was accredited by the Australian Engineer Society. And while that sounds granted if you're applying for a top tier school, that's not the case. Some engineering degrees, even at Monash, are not accredited, which means they're okay if you're a local Aussie, but not okay if you are an international student. Temporary graduate visa. Almost anyone and everyone is going to tell you that you can't get a job in Australia unless and until you have a PR or provide proof that you're planning to get one. Sure, I mean, that's what I came to Australia for. On paper, there might be an 18 months allowance for you to stay in Australia after you graduate. But most employers, and I mean even the top MNCs, the big 4 companies, will not really be looking to hire you. Unless and until they're very sure you'll be staying long term. There is Australia actually does not have that many sort of jobs, and it sort of now has enough population to fill them. They're really not looking for international hiring. Think local before global. Yes, it may be a huge country by land area, very strong economy, but it is a very small workforce. Most of the jobs are situated in Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, and that's it. More than merit, jobs are attained through referrals and a lot of networking. The general perception is that it's very easy to get into an Australian university. You don't require any sort of exams, GRE or GMAT. And there has been a very strong trend of accepting low academically performing students from Southeast Asia. Cohort diversity, a graduate degree in Australia is definitely less difficult than American counterparts. It's an easier passing grade, and that's been the unanimous thing that I've read on forums. When it comes to diversity, you won't be meeting a lot of local. My third country is the UK versus Ireland. I think there's not enough discussion, and there should be on this. Yes, both UK and Ireland may be geographically closer to one another, but they're culturally very, very different. And so are they economically. The first thing, curriculum design. Yes, both of them have 1-year masters. You can select far more number of courses, and you have greater choice when it comes to universities in the UK than you will ever have in Ireland, because it's mainly just UCD, National College Ireland and Trinity. That's all, and everything is based out of Dublin. Nothing really outside. Second, graduate post-residence. Both countries allow you 2 years post-masters. Unlike Australia, where employers would not sponsor you even if you're on a temporary graduate visa, that's not the case with the UK or Ireland. But there's a pattern that you need to understand. To be able to predict what's going to come in the later years, it's important to understand how today is going to affect the future. We've seen, the whole thing with the post-Brexit, and what that has done is that it has shifted a huge focus of EU students who would before be studying in British universities because they were paying like 1/4 of the tuition fee or something, will now be considered as international students. So obviously they're not looking to apply to UK. There's already enough anti-EU sentiment. That's not the case with Ireland. They would be treated as EU citizens, would be paying lower fees, would be considered to be competitive applicants, both in job market as well as in their program. So the doors are open for them. Program design different. Definitely you have an MS, MRes and MEng in UK. MS is usually 6 months of courses and 6 months of a thesis, and MRes can sometimes be a 1 year, especially King's College London offers a lot of MRes, which can be a 1 year full of research. They're more like a transition to PhD for people who are not very sure of doing a PhD. My final country is Canada, the blue-eyed boy after US. Surely now it's called the Canadian dream. Okay, so Canada is very lucrative because it allows you to have a work permit for around 3 years. And unlike the US, you don't have the whole drama of an H-1B visa. Curriculum design, okay, so in Canada, you have MS programs and you have MEng programs. And there are also MASC programs, that is applied science programs, which are somewhat sort of engineering programs actually. Now, what is exactly the difference? Now, all the masters are 3 kinds. You can either have 2 years full-time only coursework, or you could have approximately 1.5 years of coursework and last semester you do your thesis. Then the third is called a co-op program, which allows you to have 8 months of a paid internship at a company. Almost all traditional master's programs in Canada, no matter what the specialization is, are very focused on research, which means before even applying to the university, you need to apply to the faculty who's teaching that particular program. Send an email about what your work has been, read through their papers, find a common area of interest and a defining scope of a thesis that you would like to do with them. And then they get to refer you to their admissions program. So you can apply directly, but you'll have to put in the name and details of the faculty who referred to you. Eventually, a lot of the decision in getting in depends upon the faculty. Stark contrast, the US, very holistic application, GRE, GPA, letters of recommendation, SOP, a lot of things, work X do count. And the admission committee has a bigger say in the US, but not in Canada, because in Canada, the professor needs to fund you. I would definitely suggest that if you're in your second, third year, you should go for a summer internship in Canada. If you're thinking about cost, My Tax is a program which allows you to, completely get your research, stay and everything funded by them. I am completely surprised why people are not even talking about this. Just by doing an MEng from Canada does not mean that you are qualified as an engineer. You need to also try to clear the PE, that is a professional engineering license. It may not matter to tech, but it does when it comes to mining, structural engineering, and the more traditional sort of engineering. That does not mean you won't get a job after an MEng just with a degree, but you would definitely be paid a lot lesser. So you should keep that in mind. Admission requirements now, I know a lot of universities like the Toronto, UBC and McGill say that they don't require GRE, but actually it's almost highly recommended, which means it's required. I just want to give a couple of pointers there. I know a lot of people are confused about, again, what colleges they should apply to. I would say, first thing, don't go for consulting. First of all, they have tie-ups, which means obviously they do get a commission from them, and they would recommend you to go to the particular university they want you to go to. It might even be actually pretty good in ranking. That means you are giving everything to them to decide. You just have to provide your details. They fill in everything from you, from sending your GRE scores to sending your transcripts, getting the visa process, everything. What that means is that you don't have any sort of personal communication with the admissions team. You haven't contacted them directly, and that makes an impact. You haven't contacted their students. You don't know what are the ins and outs of the university. You need to network before you go for a master's and not while you're there. Especially post 2020, that's how it's going to work. Second, a lot of people who are writing GRE, I just want to mention that you need to decide what universities you need to go to before you write the exam and not after it. because you have 5 universities. You can send your score absolutely at no cost. So you may want to use that. So these are the general tips that I had for you. If there is anything, I'm sure there are a lot of queries. So do mention in the comments below. Until then, good luck with your applications, and I hope you get the dream school that you've always wanted to. Thank you.